The alarm echoed through the corridors of Terra Nova, its relentless blaring cutting through the morning calm like a knife. Commander Jack Harper stood at the helm, staring out at the once vibrant horizon now painted with the dark silhouettes of alien warships descending like vultures circling their prey. The colony, a flourishing bastion of humanity on the edge of the galaxy, was under siege. "Commander, we're losing communication with the outer defense posts." Lieutenant Sarah Chen's voice crackled through the intercom, urgency threading her words. She rushed into the command center, her face a mask of determination framed by tousled black hair. "Redirect power to the shields and get the civilians to the bunkers," Jack ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. He turned, eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of his crew, some terrified, others resolute. Each one of them depended on him to guide them through this crisis. As they hurried to comply, Jack felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The stakes were higher than ever. This was not just about Terra Nova, it was about survival for all of humanity. A blip on his screen confirmed his fears. The alien ships were moving faster than anticipated, their intent unmistakably lethal. "Sir, we have a visual!" Sarah exclaimed, her eyes darting between the screens. The view shifted to show a fleet of sleek, obsidian vessels, their menacing forms glinting against the backdrop of the sun. Jack recognized the markings, the Zorath, a race that had terrorized colonies across the galaxy, leaving destruction in their wake. "Focus on the lead ship," he commanded, a surge of adrenaline propelling him forward. "Prepare for engagement. We can't let them breach the colony's perimeter." Jack's mind raced back to previous battles, memories of failure haunting him. He had watched comrades fall, innocent lives shattered, and he swore he wouldn't let history repeat itself. "This time, we will fight." As the ship shuddered under a distant blast, Jack caught a glimpse of Sarah's worried expression. "Commander, if we don't make it out of this, what's the plan?" Her words cut through him, a reminder of the fragility of their situation. "We have to hold our ground, Sarah. If we lose Terra Nova, we lose hope." With every passing moment, the tension mounted. Jack felt the weight of leadership pressing down on him, a mantle he had borne before but now felt heavier than ever. "Signal all units. Prepare to intercept the incoming fighters," he said, voice firm. "We stand united, or we fall divided." "Understood," Sarah replied, determination igniting in her eyes. The crew moved in synchrony, a well-oiled machine ready to defend their home. Jack could sense their resolve solidifying, a shared purpose igniting among them. Suddenly, the ship's sensors blared an alert, and Jack's heart sank. "Incoming missiles! Evasive maneuvers!" he shouted, gripping the controls as the ship lurched violently. Alarms blared, and chaos erupted in the command center. The view outside transformed into a kaleidoscope of lights and shadows, explosions blooming in the distance as the first wave of alien fighters launched their attack. "Brace for impact!" Jack yelled, adrenaline surging through his veins. The ship shuddered again, a bone-jarring jolt that sent crew members tumbling to the ground. Jack steadied himself, his gaze locked on the screens. This was just the beginning. "Hold fast!" he called out, determination flooding his voice. "We fight for our home!" As the battle raged outside, Jack felt the unyielding fire of hope ignite within him. They would not go quietly into the night. Humanity had faced its share of trials, but today, they would show the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. The rumble of the engines reverberated through the warship, a mechanical heartbeat that pulsed with urgency as Commander Jack Harper scanned the control panels. The glow of red alerts and flickering screens cast shadows across the command center, where tension hung thick in the air. They had a mere 15 minutes before the Zorath forces would breach the perimeter, and every second counted. "Jack, we need to redistribute power to the aft shields. They're taking heavy fire." Sarah's voice cut through the din, her brow furrowed as she concentrated on the cascading data feeds. "Make it happen!" he barked, then turned to face the rest of the crew. "Listen up! We're going to hold the line. Each of you knows your roles. Execute your tasks with precision, and we'll make it through this." The crew nodded, their faces a mix of determination and fear. Jack could sense their anxiety. They were all aware of the stakes. He had seen too many promising missions turn to dust when morale faltered. As the crew members rushed to their stations, Jack approached the ship's tactical officer, Ensign Ravi Patel. The young officer's hands flew across the controls, sweat glistening on his forehead. "We've got multiple bogies incoming, Commander. They're fast and heavily armed." Jack clenched his jaw, the weight of leadership settling heavily on his shoulders. "Can we get a lock on them?" "Working on it. But they're jamming our systems." Ravi's fingers danced over the console, frustration evident in his tone. Jack glanced at Sarah, who had moved to the weapons console, her fingers poised over the firing controls. "We'll need to rely on our instincts," he said, determination hardening his resolve. "What's our best shot? If we can lure them into the asteroid belt, we might gain the upper hand. Their ships are larger, they won't maneuver as easily," Sarah suggested, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "Let's do it," Jack replied, a surge of adrenaline coursing through him. "Ravi, plot a course." The ship lurched as the engines roared to life, hurtling them toward the belt of asteroids that loomed ominously ahead. Jack felt the ship respond to his command, its metallic frame humming in anticipation. They needed to create an advantage, and fast. "Prepare to engage!" Jack shouted, his heart racing. "Sarah, you take point. Keep them focused on you. I'll take the rear with the missile launchers. We'll hit them where it hurts." "On it," Sarah replied, a fierce glint in her eyes. Jack admired her tenacity. She had grown from a bright-eyed recruit into a formidable officer, her strategic mind sharp as a blade. The warship hurtled into the rocky expanse, the massive asteroids looming larger with each passing second. Jack could see the enemy ships gaining ground behind them, their sleek forms cutting through space like predatory beasts. "Enemy fighters are breaking off!" Ravi exclaimed, excitement in his voice. "They're following us into the belt." "Good. Let's give them a welcome," Jack said, adrenaline surging through him. He felt the weight of every decision, the lives of his crew resting on his shoulders. As the ship maneuvered between the asteroids, Jack's breath quickened. The rocky terrain would provide cover, but it also meant they had to navigate carefully. "Steady, everyone! Keep your eyes open!" he shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. "Missiles ready!" Sarah confirmed, her finger hovering over the launch button. Jack glanced at the screen, watching as the enemy fighters began to scatter in pursuit. "Now! Fire at will!" The ship rocked as Sarah unleashed a volley of missiles, bright trails of light cutting through the darkness. Explosions erupted in the distance, shattering the silence of space as one Zorath fighter was caught in the blast, disintegrating into a plume of debris. "Nice shot!" Jack cheered, the tension momentarily lifted as they gained the upper hand. But as the cheers echoed through the control room, a chilling alarm blared, cutting through the exhilaration. "Incoming missile!" Ravi shouted, panic creeping into his voice. Jack's heart dropped. "Evasive maneuvers! Now!" The ship veered sharply to the right, the force nearly throwing Jack against the wall. He gripped the console, eyes fixed on the approaching threat. The fight was far from over. The ship shuddered violently as the enemy missile exploded close to their hull, the force rattling Jack Harper's teeth. Alarms blared, drowning out the crew's frantic shouts, but Jack remained focused, his instincts kicking into overdrive. "Status report," he barked, gripping the edge of the control panel to steady himself. "Shields down to 60%. Sarah Chen's voice rang out, laced with urgency. She was a whirlwind at her station, fingers flying over the controls, assessing damage and rerouting power. "We need to regroup or we won't last much longer. Redirect power from non-essential systems to the front shields," Jack commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Ravi, can we disable their targeting systems?" Ravi Patel's face was a mask of concentration, sweat beading on his brow. "I'll try. They're jamming our signals, but I can attempt to hack to their mainframe." He typed furiously, the screen flickering as the ship rocked beneath them. As Jack watched his crew scramble, He felt a swell of pride mingling with fear. Each one of them was fighting for their lives, and he needed to ensure their efforts were not in vain. The Zoroth were relentless, and they sensed weakness. "Focus on those fighters at 10 o'clock!" Jack pointed, heart racing as he spotted a group of enemy ships closing in. "Sarah, get ready to fire!" "I'm on it!" She steadied herself, eyes locked on the screens, adrenaline fueling her every move. "Firing in 3, 2... Jack felt the ship jolt again as her weapons unleashed a torrent of fire, bright flashes illuminating the dark void of space. One of the Zoroth fighters exploded in a fiery blaze, but the victory was short-lived. More ships poured into the fray, eager to avenge their fallen comrades. Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the ship, knocking Jack off his feet. He landed hard against the floor, pain shooting through his side as the lights flickered ominously. "Status!" he shouted, pushing himself back up. "Forward thrusters are damaged!" Sarah yelled, panic creeping into her voice. "We can't maneuver effectively." "Ravi!" Jack's voice was sharp. "How's the hack coming?" "I'm in. But I need a few more seconds. Their security is tighter than expected," Ravi replied, sweat streaming down his face. Jack's heart raced as he surveyed the scene. The ship was vulnerable, exposed to enemy fire. "We can't wait!" "Sarah, keep firing! We need to buy him time!" As the ship trembled, Jack's resolve hardened. They were humanity's last line of defense, and he wouldn't let his crew down. "Everyone, brace for evasive maneuvers!" "On my mark!" With a steadying breath, Jack prepared to act. "Now! Turn hard left!" The ship responded, veering sharply as the crew held on for dear life. Jack glanced at the viewport, watching the approaching Zoroth fighters struggle to adjust their course. Explosions lit up the darkness as more enemy ships fell to Sarah's relentless fire. "Almost there!" Ravi shouted, his fingers flying over the controls. "Just a few more seconds!" The tension in the command center was palpable, the sound of blaring alarms mixing with the distant roar of battle. Jack could feel the sweat trickling down his back, the stakes rising higher with each passing moment. "Fighter formation breaking!" Sarah called out, a hint of excitement in her voice. "They're scattering!" "Good! Now is our chance!" Jack shouted, adrenaline surging. "Ravi, target their command ship! We need to disable the leader!" Ravi nodded, eyes wide with determination. "I'm ready! Targeting now! Sarah, on my mark, fire!" The ship rocked as their weapons unleashed a deadly volley aimed at the enemy command ship, the air thick with anticipation. Explosions erupted as missiles struck true, ripping through the hull of the Zoroth vessel. "Direct hit!" Sarah cheered, but Jack couldn't allow himself to celebrate yet. "Keep firing! We need to maintain pressure!" Suddenly, the command ship began to falter, its power flickering like a dying star. "It's working!" Ravi exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. "They're losing control! Finish them off!" Jack yelled, his heart pounding in his chest. "Now is our moment!" The warship responded with renewed vigor, a surge of energy coursing through its systems as they unleashed a final barrage. The command ship exploded in a brilliant flash, sending debris scattering into the void. Jack's heart soared, a mix of triumph and relief flooding through him. "We did it!" he shouted, a grin breaking across his face. But just as he allowed himself a moment of celebration, the alarm blared once more. "More incoming ships!" Sarah's voice cut through the exhilaration like ice water. "They're regrouping!" Jack's joy faded, replaced by the bitter realization that the battle was far from over. "Ravi, can you hold the Zoroth off until we regroup?" "I'll do my best," he replied, determination etched on his face. "Then let's show them what humanity is capable of." Jack's voice rang with renewed conviction. "We will fight until the last breath." As the crew steeled themselves for the next wave, Jack felt a fire igniting within him. They were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the future of humanity itself. The dim lighting of the command center flickered ominously as Jack Harper surveyed the chaos unfolding outside the viewport. The Zorth had regrouped, a formidable armada advancing with a calculated precision that sent shivers down his spine. "Brace for impact!" he shouted, tightening his grip on the console. The ship shook violently as enemy fire rained down, jarring the crew. Jack glanced at Sarah Chin, her expression a mixture of determination and fear as she worked feverishly at her station. "Shields at 30%, she called, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We can't take much more of this." "Ravi, any updates on their movements?" Jack demanded, his heart racing as he watched the enemy formations converge. Ravi Patel's face was taut with concentration, sweat glistening on his brow. "They're trying to flank us. If we don't act fast, they'll cut us off completely." Jack's mind raced, strategizing their next move. "Redirect all remaining power to aft shields, and prepare for evasive maneuvers," he instructed. "Sarah, you'll have to cover us while we reposition." "I've got your back," she replied, a fierce determination igniting in her eyes. "Let's show them what humans are made of." With a nod, Jack steadied himself. "On my mark, execute evasive maneuvers. 3, 2, 1. The ship lurched to the side, barely evading a volley of Zorth fire. Explosions lit up the darkness outside, the sound echoing like distant thunder. Jack could feel the adrenaline pumping through his veins, a potent mix of fear and exhilaration driving him forward. As the ship twisted and turned, Jack glanced at the radar. "They're closing in. Ravi, can you target their lead ship? We need to disrupt their command." Ravi's fingers danced across the controls, his expression fierce with focus. "I'm locked on. Firing now!" The ship shuddered as their weapons unleashed a barrage of energy, striking the lead Zorth vessel. The command ship exploded in a brilliant flash, sending debris spiraling through space. Cheers erupted from the crew, but Jack knew this was only a temporary reprieve. "Keep firing!" Jack ordered, his voice cutting through the celebrations. "We need to maintain the pressure." As the crew engaged the remaining enemy ships, Jack felt a sense of unity among them, a bond forged in the heat of battle. They were no longer just a crew, they were a family, fighting for each other and for humanity's future. Suddenly, a warning alarm blared, breaking through the tension in the air. "Jack!" Sarah's voice was urgent. "We've got incoming missiles! Divert power to forward shields! Everyone, brace yourselves!" Jack shouted, adrenaline surging. The ship rattled violently as missiles struck the hull, the force throwing Jack against the console. Dazed but resolute, he fought to regain his composure. "Status report," he barked, his voice steadying. "Shields are down to 10%. Sarah shouted, panic creeping into her tone. "We're vulnerable. Ravi, can you scramble their targeting systems?" Jack asked, desperation creeping into his voice. "I can try, but I'll need a moment," Ravi replied, fingers flying over the controls. "Do it," Jack urged, his heart pounding in his chest. "We can't afford to lose anyone else." As the Zorth pressed their advantage, Jack's thoughts raced. Memories of lost comrades flooded his mind, fueling his determination. He could not let their sacrifice be in vain. "Almost there!" Ravi shouted, sweat pouring down his face. "Just a little longer!" Jack's gaze flickered to the viewport, where enemy ships loomed ominously. "Everyone, prepare for a last stand." "Ready when you are," Sarah responded, her eyes fierce. With a steadying breath, Jack took a moment to reflect. This was it, the moment that would define humanity's legacy. "On my mark, we fight back with everything we have." "Mark!" The ship erupted into a flurry of activity as Jack's command rang through the cabin. They unleashed everything they had, energy blasts lighting up the darkness as they engaged the Zorth fleet head-on. "Keep firing! We can't let them push us back!" Jack shouted, voice hoarse but filled with resolve. As the battle raged on, Jack felt a surge of hope amidst the chaos. They were not fighting just for survival. They were fighting for the future of their species. The bond between the crew fortified them, their shared purpose igniting a fire that refused to be extinguished. "Direct hit!" Sarah cheered as another enemy ship exploded. "We're making progress. Don't let up," Jack urged, determination in every word. "We have to push through." In a whirlwind of explosions and energy bursts, the tide began to turn. The Zorith, sensing their command structure faltering, hesitated. Jack seized the moment. "Now focus fire on their remaining ships. We end this today." With a collective roar, the crew unleashed a final assault, their combined efforts driving the enemy back. Jack felt a swell of pride as he watched the Zorith retreat, their once unstoppable fleet crumbling before their unity and resolve. As silence enveloped the battlefield, Jack looked around at his crew, a sense of relief washing over him. They had fought valiantly and emerged victorious, a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit. "We did it," he whispered, overwhelmed by the enormity of their victory. "We fought back." As cheers erupted around him, Jack knew that this battle was just the beginning. Together, they had forged a legacy that would echo through the stars, a testament to the strength of humanity against all odds. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. I promise you, nothing will happen to your finger.